Hi, I'm Eric at Frog Valley Tropical Fruit Farm, and this is Florida Natural Farming. Today I'm going to look at some fruit trees and talk about drought stress and ways to deal with it, and tide drought stress, cold stress, and insect pressure and disease pressure all together. Because they're all connected, in the management that you provide for your trees, the way you farm can affect their ability to overcome abiotic and biotic stressors. So I'm standing in front of this MB fruit tree, and this tree just, this is the star of the farm. I've planted 200 seeds or more of this from this tree, and this tree just blows me away how much fruit it sets. This single little tree made $2,400 on fruit sales for us last year, and we have 3 producing trees of this now, and they're just the amount of fruit they produce. Dry farming is just, this is definitely a crop for Florida. It's the African mangosteen. It's quite delicious. It's totally unaffected by this bad drought we were going under, or been in for a while now, and I can't see any negative effects from not watering it. Obviously it is able to produce a lot of fruit, and that's the case here. So basically this is a male Garcinia Livingstonii tree. They don't produce fruit. They can produce a random, like 2 or 3 fruits, or 4 max, I think is what we've got off of a male tree. But they don't produce crops. The female Garcinia Livingstonii produces fruit without being pollinated, so it's monoecious. This is what we use for our fertility. This is our little bowl from last year's calves. FBF Cooper, and he's like a red paint. He's got little light colored speckles all over him that are starting to come out now that he's shedding, and he's so cute. I'm tying him up to this Inga tree. He's just a tiny little guy. He's gonna have horns because we're not pulling our zebus, and he's just so sweet and so well mannered, and just has a perfect temperament. His hump's starting to get bigger. I imagine he's going to mature at about 31 inches max. You can see all the weird shading he has on his rump starting to come out, the stripes and the brindle marks, and he's got little speckles that are starting to pop up. So he is out of my favorite cow, Pepsi, who's a very fancy paint cow. And our bull, Bogle Farms Midnight. So Pepsi is Bogle Farms Uma. I love them. I love the miniature zebus. So that's our whole fertility program, is the miniature zebus, and it seems to work. Animal manures are high in amino acids, and amino acids, they're proteins. They're the building blocks of life, and they're responsible for cellular energy, and plants synthesize all the amino acids, and the source of the amino acids is from the soil, and they just recycle them, and it's they're very important for cellular signaling, for glycolysis, to create energy during times of stress, so cold stress or drought stress or insect pressure. The amino acids play a key role in melatonin pathways, and melatonins rely on or derive from amino acids. So it's just, they're very important. And our food system today, we use ammonia and nitrate, which is a nitrogen source, but amino acids are also a nitrogen source. They're organic nitrogen source. And it turns out that I see that the creatures have been crawling up this hog plum tree, breaking off little branches and stuff, trying to get fruit, but the fruit's not even ripe, dude. But anyway, so amino acids are organic source of nitrogen that plants need and are critical to what puts protein in our food, in our plant-based foods. And I read this study where they had amino acids and nitrate and ammonia fertilizers, nitrogen synthetic fertilizers, or nitrogen in the form of ammonia or nitrate, and amino acids all together. And the plants took up the amino acids at 10 times the rate of the nitrogen. So they're important for photosynthesis. Everything relies on the amino acids, and cow manure contains 12 to 18% of dry weight is amino acids. So chicken manure is like 50%, I think, or close to that, and pig manure is even the same, or close to it, 38% or something like that. Don't quote me exactly. I didn't really pay attention to the pig and the chicken, but I know it was higher than the cow manure. But because we've been spraying or using nitrate and water-soluble fertilizers that are non-organic sources, our soils have become depleted of amino acids, which are essential for plants to handle abiotic stress. So stress from drought, and we're in a severe drought right now. And the way that we deal with drought is through soil health and adding species. And drought-tolerant plants is a good way to introduce bacteria that survive in drought to your system. So different cacti and succulents in the system, nitrogen-fixing cacti or something like that would be a good way. It just, every little bit helps. And disturbance, we're on sand here, so it's basically quartz sand or shell calcium sand, depending on how disturbed it is. Our bedrock is calcium carbonate or calcareous rock, and so water doesn't stay in the system. So a drought that you haven't focused on building the biology up through the use of living plants, the living root in the soil, you're going to have low carbon in your soil. So your soil is not going to be able to hold water in the system. And so that's why the living orchard floor is like this. And then the living orchard floor creates a tapestry of roots below ground, which is where the biology lives, that provide nutrients and a host of other plant beneficial properties for the plant, and deliver water via the fungi and stuff, but they have to live in the root zones of the plant. And if you just have a compacted sand and a tree, then there is no connection between the tree and the system. So we tie it all together with this living orchard floor, a biodiverse range of plants, and we stay off of it so it's not compacted. Sand is so easily disturbed. And they found that, I didn't know this, but we all know that the biology feeds on the sugars from the plants, but the second highest exudate from the roots into the soil is amino acids. I found that very interesting. So I'm here looking at some star apple fruit trees, and my friend Frank got his hands on some alva star apple seeds. This is Oscar's giant purple, and you can tell it's under drought stress. Stress is a natural state for plants. They're not meant to be in perfect conditions 24/7. Otherwise, they have no reason to form relationships with biology that will enable them to signal, to create phytochemicals or speed up pathways, converting melatonin or amino acids into energy, or any of those other important molecular biological functions that are done on a cellular level are hindered if we keep plants at a perfect state 24/7. It's nature's changes are exercise for plants because they're stationary. So the only way they can exercise is through abiotic or biotic stress. So when your plant goes through a drought cycle, it's much like us exercising super strong or doing fasting. They shut off and have cell senescence. So the leaves shut off and they stop respiring to conserve water. So they look like this when that happens, and then they drop a lot of leaves. So they take the nutrients from those leaves and send them down into the root zone, and the roots actually continue to grow even though the above part of the plant stops. And so I was wondering why plants a lone achacha tree that got affected by drought, because our achachas are not, the garcinias are unaffected by the drought. There's like very minimal, one or two plants out of hundreds of garcinias we have here that showed drought stress. But one larger garcinia, Achachairu tree, showed drought stress 2 years ago when we had back-to-back seasonal droughts, so a winter drought and a summer drought. We'd never had a summer drought before. And it like had some dieback. It didn't kill it. They don't kill the tree. But then after the rains came, the tree grew twice as fast as all the others. And so it grew like twice its size after the rains came. It's because during that time, it was converting all its resources to its roots, to elongate its roots. And they have a very long taproot. I just find this all fascinating. I'm going to do some links on, so this is the Achachairu tree, and probably if we got more rain, it would have continued flowering, but I don't think it's flowering that much. But there's quite a bit of fruit in here. When I look, I could see fruit everywhere. But it has dropped some leaves, and that's what all that stuff is. But it seems quite fine, and there is quite a bit of fruit on this tree. So I want to talk about citrus. So there's all these issues in Florida with citrus and citrus greening, and supposedly they've come up, there's one big ripe Achachachiru fruit right here. This one's huge. Look at that. Is it ripe? It looks like it was still green, but it's kind of, that's weird. That must have bloomed off season because all the others are very small. I probably should have let it ripen, but I got overly excited. I picked it a little early, but it looked like it was of color, the gold color. I thought it was a passion fruit. I need to get the passion fruit vine off this tree. I really don't like that, but the passion fruit's just so aggressive. So I guess my first Achachairu fruit of the year. So good. So people have so much issue with citrus. Isn't that interesting? So they do, these do produce. Raul from Puerto Vallarta said that they produce 3 crops in where he is. So they do, they are like other Garcinias and produce, it seems like, continuously almost, because this fruit is way ahead of all the others. It's so good. It was ripe. It's so delicious. This fruit is so good. The dry farm fruit is just amazing. There's just no comparison between dry farm fruit and trees that are always given exactly what we think they need all the time. Unlimited water. They don't develop the phytochemicals, and it's very good fruit. I see why this is like going to be a very popular fruit tree, or fruit tree of the future. So they just don't develop the same phytochemicals. And then, everyone knows that if mangoes get too much water, they get a washed out taste. Well, the same thing applies if you're constantly giving them water. They have no reason to create flavonols and other antioxidants that are needed for combating abiotic stress. So this is a citron, and we don't have greening on any of our citrus. We grow 14 different types of citrus, from pomelo to finger lime to citron to sweet orange to blood orange. Now I got Clementino Rubino from Virginia Fruit Grower, and they're all grown from seed. And this is a citron that, it's under some drought stress, but it's gonna be just fine. Our citrus that has fruit, so it's a seed-grown tree. That tree hasn't even flowered yet, so I think it's like 3 or 4 years old. Should be flowering, but it's not. Here's how they look when they're under drought stress. It's nothing to worry about. So when you have this living orchard floor and you have biology in the soil, and obviously if the second highest exudate of plants after sugars is amino acids, that the soil is full of amino acids. And then we use our one organic input, which is the probiotic and the prebiotic. So hay, wrapped manure. So a cow manure wrapped in hay. And there are rules against applying fresh manure for food crops. And the manure adds amino acids to the system also. So, and a lot of other stuff. It's food for the biology. So, the rules are you can't apply fresh manure for 120 days. It has to be applied 120 days before you can harvest fruit or food for human consumption. So, so these are our Oscar giant purple star apple, and here's a DPI gold star apple, that little tiny tree. The rabbits and whatever else have got a couple of my little tiny seedlings that I only had one of. One was the Cupia polyandra, and the other one was in a video I just did of the Boeutaria torta subspecies glabra. This is the juicy pearl star apple from Australia. Look at the size of the seed in the Achachairu. So I guess there's some species now they're saying are more greening resistant in citrus. Here's a clementine, one of those cuties that I found a seed in. And that's just how they look. I planted it out here when it was 2 inches tall. It's never been watered, doesn't need water. This is just what goes on. This is how they look. This is a cutting I did of a blood orange. A blood orange, we had one citrus tree that got greening. Got to figure out where I'm going to plant this seed. And it was this tree here. And it's a blood orange tree. Does that tree look like it has greening now? Most certainly does not. It completely overcame it, which just blew me away, that it completely outgrew it. But this tree lost almost all its leaves. This is the remainder of it, and was like this one branch. The whole tree was like that for about a year. I thought it was gonna die. I did videos of it and showed it, and I said I put manures, piles of compost, around it to see if that would help it overcome its greening, which it did, obviously. It wasn't the oak tree. There is no one thing to fix a problem other than management, holistic, natural management system. And the problem with dry farming is sometimes can be fruit production, but we get jackfruit in the middle of winter when nobody else does. So that's because it starts raining later, so that the plants are on a natural cycle with the system. So we get jackfruit in December, and we get jackfruit in January, and we get jackfruit in February, and we get jackfruit in March, which is not typical. So it's different when you grow like this. And this whole farm is like a big giant experiment to see exactly what is possible in Florida. And it turns out there's a lot that's possible in Florida. I'm looking at a Luke's Garcinia right there that's trying to get bigger. It's like fairly good size. I planted an ackee tree over here and wonder how that's doing. A little tiny seedling. I see it right here. Right there. Looks good. You see this and you think drought. What drought? Yeah, that's because we have all this giant cover over it that holds water and shades the system. That's what. It's like a multi-pronged approach to plant growth in a forest system. You just can't have an open system without any overstory and expect it to function perfectly well. So areas that we don't have an overstory, like over here, the trees look a little more stressed and it's a little drier. So the cashews seem to be doing okay. They're hanging in there. They seem quite capable of overcoming any drought stress. Though I had them at our beach house, and the tree there eventually died, but I was mowing the sand dunes, mowing on the sand dunes, and that was just too much for it. You got to leave the living root if you're going to do a dry farm system. When I first started here, I would remove all the weeds from around my trees and just do wood chips, and the trees couldn't survive because there was no moisture in the ground, which you get from the living root, because the living root is moisture in the ground. So, and then if you have the living root, it's has the biology, because it's the living root the biology lives in the living root, so or around the living root. That's the home for the biology. the rhizosphere. So orange sherbet mango, that's quite nice. Such a late year for mangoes this year. It's all summer mango. So here's one of our Miko lemons. It's got little tiny fruitlets on it. And there's a cashew tree. There's another Miko lemon. I'm gonna look at some big citrus, our oldest Miko lemons. Here's a Miko lemon, it's a little younger. They're all different ages, the citrus, because, so this citrus here is definitely drought stress. This one citrus out of all of them looks like it has dieback, but as you can see, look at the orchard floor. It's like short grass, and this is after 6 years of not mowing. I think it's been 6 years of not mowing. And then there's an Achachairu growing right there that should be bigger than that, but it's stunted from the compaction. Compaction from mowing is probably the biggest detriment to growers in Florida, because they mow and then they clear the plants from around the base of the tree by the use of glyphosate. Glyphosate completely disrupts all cellular function. It causes mitochondria damage, and it's just a big negative and will inhibit your citrus from being able to overcome greening. And that's why greening has become systemic here in Florida, because of our management of, or mismanagement of our biological system. Our soil health has been completely damaged, and our soil has been compacted. So this is a citrus, our own citrus called the Miko lemon. It's like a hybrid between a lemon and a grapefruit, I believe, but I've never had it tested. But it comes true from seed so far. We're on our second generation of this, and it doesn't have greening, and it's not under any drought stress, and they produce very well, especially not being watered. These trees produce a lot of fruit. Could they produce more? Possibly, but would watering this tree affect its natural ability to overcome insect pressure? It would probably affect it in a negative way. I think that our ability to grow cacao in this zone, dry farming, is the reason why our trees can go down to our cacao trees can go down to 31 degrees, because their immune system is so adept at handling abiotic stress from drought that it's just attuned to counter any negative effects that cold temperature. It doesn't get that cold for that long here. So for brief periods of 31 degrees, our cacao can hold fruit, which is not ever discussed anywhere else. They say it's impossible, in fact. So it's because we dry farm. I know that's why. The reason why we don't have any greening is because we dry farm. The reason why our fruit is so flavorful is because we dry farm. Here's our black sapote fruit, and I've been letting these ripen on the tree, but I know that the creatures like them, and this tree was loaded with flowers, but it still has a lot of flowers on it, so I'm not too worried about it. It's had fruit most of the year this year, so I'm not too worried about not getting enough black sapote. It's just such a productive tree. And at first, when we first started doing this with the black sapotes, these black sapote trees from the nursery were some of the most sensitive to not being watered. So they just would drop all their leaves and just look horrible. And it took me a little, so this one's starting to ripen, so I have to come back out here in a day or two and pick that. So here's another Miko lemon. I see the birds are starting to sharpen their beaks on it, or not sharpen their beaks, but get the oil from the citrus. It damages the fruit every year and knocks some of it off. But Achachairu, the first one. Such a good fruit. It looks okay. I should go in there and look at some of these sugar apples while I'm here, before I wind up the video and look at the... So here's a little cashew. So my partner and I have discussed, you know, what do we do if just the stress from the oversight of the government on nutrient applications becomes too much, and we are just going to, if we don't sell, which we would sell if the right person came along with the money and wanted the place, but they haven't stepped up and we haven't listed it. We want to do some work before we ever list it, and but we could just stop being a farm. Just stop having a federal tax ID number. So there's lots of sugar apples forming on these trees, which is good. That's what that is. And I see more of them. And sugar apples seem oblivious to drought. In fact, our sugar apples that never got any water, because there was a brief period when we connected our system to water for 9 months. But these trees were not one of them, and they're the only ones that survived this row, because I had 3 more rows, and this area got more water. These 3 rows that were here, and all of them died. But these sugar apples along here that have the ginger in between them all are doing great, and they're big and they're healthy and they have fruit on them. So there's an ilama tree. I'm not going to go through there. It's just too much of a mess to get through there. I did have a path through there, but I was knocking my sugar apple trees and I don't want to destroy them, so I stopped mowing that path. Ground is very soft through here, and as you can see, this is the mowed path, and the unmowed path is about 4 inches taller, because mowing causes soil subsidence, so soil compaction, soil erosion basically. And they figured the Florida is sinking faster than the sea level is rising. It's from all the anthropogenic damage we do to everything, so the human caused compaction. I got some bananas, but I'm gonna give a bunch of them to my friend Frank, because he's gonna bring me some alva seeds by. I can't wait. There's the Achachachiru. This was probably one of the next Achachairos that's going to be fruiting for us. It's really surprising that bananas are totally unaffected by drought. Yes, some of them are like a little haggard, but these are the smaller ones, are the ones that I divided. So they're like new divides. Mangoes, they produce a lot of fruit whether there's rain or not. In fact, I think they produce more fruit if there's no rain. As long as they get enough rain, they're okay, but our biggest problem with the mangoes is the possums, probably. They'll get your fruit. Somebody recently wrote me an email, wanted me to go on TFF and read something they wrote about. I said I'd like or something, but I don't go on TFF, you know, Tropical Fruit Forum. I just stopped going on it. I don't even look at anything on there. I would like to go on there, but I have too many enemies, or enough. One is enough for me, that just have issues with me for some reason, and I just don't want to read any of the negative comments. It's just not healthy for me. So if you do post on there, I don't go on there. I've just had too many bad experiences on there, so I don't do it. And I don't go on Facebook. I don't have a Facebook account. There was a moment where I thought I wanted a Facebook account, but I don't have a Facebook account. When I couldn't even join the food forest group on Facebook, I thought, well, what's the use? It's like, it didn't make any sense to me. I just stick with my YouTube. It's what I know. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it. I try to share my experience, and sometimes my experience offends people, but that's my experience. And when I first started trying to grow, I couldn't find any information on how to do it in Florida like this. And so I've had to experiment and learn, and that's why I share. So this jackfruit tree is the tree that I tied my little bowl up to. This is the orange crust jackfruit, and it seems to have a lot of fruit. It seems to be also the jackfruit that's least affected by drought this year. I find that interesting. Most of the jackfruits lost most of their leaves and do not have a lot of fruit on them, but that one did. So this Garcinia hambromiana, this is like a Garcinia that's affected by drought. So I see it's got some leaf burn on it. Supposedly we're going to go into a wet phase next week. Seems like the longer the drought is, the less offended or scared I get. When it first starts up and the trees start looking withered and drop leaves, I start getting freaked out. But as the drought goes on, I don't really seem to notice any severe damage. So it's just the system is very healthy. I'd grow like this because I wanted this farm to be here with or without any human. So it's able to just grow and produce without any sort of human interference. So it can grow naturally and produce a lot of fruit. I have got plenty of fruit for my own personal household and to share with friends, but at times I have a lot of fruit that we sell to the public, like when the mangoes are ripe. So this is Achachachiru is affected by the drought. This is what happened to the other Achachairu that I said is like grew 3 times as big or twice as big after the rains came, and now it's not affected by the drought. This is drought stress, but there's a path right here, and it's not gonna die. And I know that when it's doing this, it's sending down deeper roots. So I will do a link to that study I read where the plants do that. So that's why when the rains start up, this tree will probably be twice as big as the others that aren't getting drought stress like this one. And the tree that was drought stressed 2 years ago is not showing zero signs of drought stress. Even the native indigenous oak trees are showing drought stress. It's natural. Plants are in a stress situation every day, year round. It's natural for them to be stressed. What's not natural is that for them to be totally in a perfect state 24/7. So that they can't build relationships with the microbes to sustain themselves during any changes in the environment. This Achachairu is totally fine. Oh, so here's one of those citrus that, here's a wampy that's looking drought stressed, but it's totally fine. It's nothing to worry about. So this has little fruit on it. This is the first time this has produced fruit. This is, this little seedling. This one doesn't have greening either. Greening is a management issue. If you're using environmental toxins like glyphosate and fungicides and herbicides and heavy metals that you get when you apply micronutrient fertilizers or forever chemicals that come out of as there is flame retardants used in fertilizers. then your tree's mitochondria gets damaged, and its ability to process and synthesize amino acids is severely affected, much like our gut microbiome is by glyphosate. So are the tree's rhizosphere microbiome is affected by our management and the use of chemical pollutants or heavy metals in the system. Severely damage, create misfolded proteins, so misfolded amino acids, chains of amino acids. Everything is connected. So here's another Wampy that looks good. Okay, citrus. This is that other citrus. I think this is a kumquat, but I'm not sure exactly. But this was the first year. This one flowered also, but it set some fruit. Little fruits on it. Yeah, I think it's a kumquat, I'm pretty sure. Not a lot, but it's got some. I'm surprised it had any the first year it flowered, but like the pomelo did not set any fruit. This was the first year our pomelo flowered. Here's a little citrus. This is drought stress in citrus. This is nothing to get offended by. That's just how they look. They're not respiring. They shut off cellular photosynthesis, and they internally break down calcium oxalate to get carbon dioxide and water, and then keep cellular processes happening, and they send down deeper roots. That's what's going on. So this is our cacao tree that produced 30 fruit this year, this little dry farm cacao. And I've shown this tree every year this time of year, and this is how it looks. This is the year, but in 2 years, somebody will watch this video and say, oh my God, I can't believe you abuse your tree like that. And then I'll have to do a video that probably shows this tree twice as big, covered in fruit. But that's just what to be expected. It gives me a reason to make a video and have a topic to discuss. My bicolor, Theobroma bicolor is getting big. Some creature knocked it over. Yes, indeed. So here's another citrus. This is a sweet orange. There's no greening on this either. This isn't leaf miner. This is what happens when trees are citrus and like star apples get drought stressed. It increases its ability to handle other abiotic stressors like freeze, which is why we're able to grow all these tropical fruit trees like cacao and mangosteen, Garcinia mangostana, durian, through the winter here without any major issues. Polisson, keppel tree, meringue, all these rare aroids that they say can't take below 50 degrees. They seem to thrive here. Anyway, that's my video du jour, and it was a great moment. I got my first Achachachiru off this tree. I didn't even see that big fruit on there. It must have been there for a while, a few months anyway. But there's more to come. There's a whole bunch of fruit on there, so we're gonna have more fruit. So I'm looking forward to that. It's such a delicious fruit. It is why we started this farm. And thanks for watching, and please grow sustainably, and don't let a little drought scare you. It'll make your plants stronger if you let them handle it naturally. Please like, share, subscribe if you enjoyed this content. I love hearing from you. Please leave a comment. Thanks for watching. Have an excellent day.